I sometimes struggle to remember what happened in the day. Daily entries are catching your moments. Weekly reviews are catching the patterns. You can be in control.
Can you do that if somebody's tailgating you?
Fuck, man. Let's bring COVID back, keep your 6 feet, like.
All kinds of us want to do better, and we just find ourselves not doing better because a lot of people who are addicts, they don't have enough structure in their life and what they... Yes, well, first of all, if I remember correctly, as stated in your legal will, if you die, when and if you die, and I'm still alive, I'm responsible for like all of your possessions. So I might just have to share your legacy with a recycling bin.
So there's sort of 3 parts to what I want to share that will help people with processing their thoughts, feelings, and emotions and experiences on a day-to-day basis through recovery. Mm-hmm. So it helps people stay on the path of sobriety, making better decisions. Particularly, the process of writing and journaling has been something that I've been more and more interested in, and I've learned a lot about it over the last 3 years. And so I just want to share some like the top things that have worked for me. But first, I want to hear from you, like, what's your experience with journaling and writing in this kind of way?
Mm-hmm. Well, our oldest sister, Antonia, her husband, Robert, gave me my first journal when I was 10 years old in 4th grade. And it was like camouflage. I think it was like a birthday gift or something. I thought it was one of the dumbest gifts any human had ever gotten. And I started using it almost immediately. And I've been journaling very often, very regularly, ever since I was 10 years old. So I'm 37 years. And it's always been extremely...
All right, quick pause.
Yeah.
Quick pause on that. Journaling, you do not type it, you write it. So have you accumulated physical copies of this?
What
does that feel like?
Yeah.
What does it look like?
I should have brought... I only have one that I've been using most recently that my friend Anna Mancini gave me. I do have probably a stack of journals about this high. Then some of them were in storage. Actually, I think Bridget has some more of them in storage with her in Alabama. And then I've just gotten rid of a bunch. So overall, I probably had, you can't even fit in like a stack maybe this wide or something of journals I've done. And it's always been super, super helpful for reflection, for getting into my own feelings, because when I start to just free write, ideas just start coming out that I didn't know were there. But anyway, I've been journaling for 37 years and it's been super helpful. Not diary. I've never kept a diary. And you were right when we talked the other day, there is a definition difference between diary and a journal. And you had to write a diary is just like a list of things that happens today versus journaling, which is the deeper level. And even though you have such amazing penmanship and handwriting, you don't handwrite.
No, I used to handwrite a lot, but I haven't written by hand in years, ever since technology really kind of took front and center in my life, so I tell you though, even more than typing though, these days with the advancements of software and apps and AI, like 80% of the time I'm not even typing, I'm dictating.
Yeah.
Notoriously, Apple's Siri has not been good for reliability for voice to text transcription. So I've been using a third-party app called Whisperflow, and it's like 95% accurate. So it's like totally reliable. You just and it works on the phone or the computer. I just pop that thing on and I just talk like this. Yeah. And then boom, all the text is just right there. It's very efficient. It's very accurate. And it also helps with, typically when people write or type, they're editing in real time. So the way you write is not the way you speak. And there's a kind of a problem with that when you're trying to communicate with people, whether personally or professionally. You sound kind of stiff and not yourself, not really authentic. So I find that not only is it more efficient to speak for anything, whether it's a journal entry or an email or whatever, but it's also more human and real. It's like, it sounds like you. I went from handwriting to typing. Now I really just dictate most things. Oh, and if anybody does want to check out Whisperflow, I have a link in the description. You can check it out. So I started journaling in 2023, and it was really awkward at first, but I didn't really know how to do it. So my journal entries were like maybe 3 to 5 sentences, and they were just completely like diary based. Like, here's what happened,
Right.
like no depth, no insight. And I wasn't consistent with it because I wasn't getting results from it. It didn't feel good. I
Yeah.
didn't see the point. It felt like some sort of homework exercise that was given to adults that, I just wanted to resist. Journaling without the right guidance or prompts, for a lot of people it won't take root. It won't become a routine.
Right.
So in recovery, we find that memory can edit the tape. Retroactively, you're remembering relief, but you forget the cost. You soften the consequence and you make old decisions look reasonable again. That's relapse. That's a problem, if you're trying to stay sober, for yourself and your family and your loved ones. So there's one specific tool, a writing technique that I discovered at the beginning of this year in January that I wanted to mention because people might be thinking, okay, diary is cool, journal is cool, but what do I write about? Going back to what I said earlier about how I was confused, what do you write about?
Right.
Well, there's one thing that I started doing that I wish I would have known back then. I find that it gives you permission to just go for it, just start. And it's called morning pages. So morning pages is a practice that helps to clear mental clutter through daily stream of consciousness writing. Typically, it's best to do this first thing in the morning before the day's tasks and obligations and stresses start to pull you outside of yourself. And dictation really comes in handy for this. Now, if people just want to write, that's fine too. Dictate or write. But the thing is, you want to go for like upwards of 3 pages. I mean, brain dump, right? Stream of consciousness. It's no censor on yourself. If you hesitate while morning pages is happening, you set a timer for like, say, 5 minutes. And if you get hung up with hesitation about what should I write about, you write that. You write the mental loops going on. I don't know what to write. Write that down. Say, this feels stupid. You write that down. Everything that is going through your mind or your heart, whatever, you just write it down. Stream of consciousness. I was mad at this person. This was going on. Ooh, I remember this fun little thing from yesterday. All of that just goes dumped into the morning pages. I think it warms up the engines. You know how you have to warm up the truck, So it's like if you have too many tabs open in your brain and the mental chatter is too high of a frequency, or you're confused about things in life, or you're just stressed and you don't know what's going on, this can help lubricate all of that and just get it clear the pipes.
Mm-hmm.
The next thing that I want to highlight is journaling itself as a practice. As we sort of said earlier, the difference between diary and a journal is a diary is more just a point for point recounting of what happened during the day. Journaling is more of a reflection on what it meant. One is not better than the other. Both have their time and place. I do both. And I even developed what I'm calling action-based journaling, which is journaling in a way that can help people make decisions. There's a limit to how many decisions you can make in a day before you get fatigued, exhausted, and you just need to turn off. And decision making has been not a skill of mine traditionally in the past. And so it's something I've been trying to improve on how to not only make better decisions, but make decisions faster. And when I say decision, I mean little decisions like something on your to-do list or a business decision, big or small. Open loops cause friction in the consciousness field. And so action-based journaling, I think, really helps with that.
Explain.
It's writing that turns mental noise into a clear next move. You can start with like a diary, and then with the help of my AI prompt, you can turn it into a journal and then make some decisions based on the deeper insights. So you pick an open loop or a decision or something that you're stuck on, and you just write it down, write what's happening, write how you feel about it. And then you can maybe start to articulate the decision that's hiding underneath, because you might not understand if there's even a decision to be made. Usually there is. Then finally you can end with the next action. And so you start messy. You don't try and sound smart. This is just for you. You don't write for someday. You write for the next decision. You can stop when the next move is clear or more clear. That's when you know you're really getting somewhere towards an action. So this method helps to create clarity. It gets the thoughts out of your head, and it begins to show you visually the kind of story that your brain is telling. And so then you can start, once you can see it, you can start to separate facts from any fear that you might be having. You can start to find bottlenecks. This is a tough one, but if you're avoiding something, it makes it harder to hide from it. That's what I find. I've found through journaling, imperfect, messy journaling over the last year, that there's so many things that I keep repeating. The more I see them in my journal, the more I cringe at myself. Like, I don't want to see this anymore. So action-based journaling is writing with a job towards an objective. And the objective is more clarity for mind and body, and for better decisions in the life of yourself and the loved ones around you.
Okay, so you described quite a bit in there, and the way that my mind works, because I tell people sometimes like I don't have an organizational bone in my body. Mine is much more just like feeling based and image based. So can you give me like a real life example from your own life, or could be real, could be theoretical, of like how that plays out?
Yeah, well, actually, so there's something that I didn't know that I discovered it through this process. It was a background underlying belief or worldview that I had. I changed my mind on how I see people. It was the antithesis of a common phrase that people hear. What is this phrase that you say? People say, everybody's just doing the best they can. Your parents
What
were
they
doing the
have.
best they could with the tools that they had available, some variation of that.
Yeah.
And I don't know at what point I took this on, but I just disagreed with it. Like, I think it was that untempered, fiery sort of rebel energy in me that was like, no, people are not doing the best they can. They can do better. They are not doing the best they can. I think that is a cop-out. And I think that they are just lazy and weak. Now, we could unpack that. We're not going to, but we could, a psychologist or a therapist or you could unpack that. The listener could unpack that. It's like, well, David, are you just like projecting onto other people? Okay, so whatever, right? And it's like, that doesn't matter. My point is to answer your question. This was when I was like really struggling. In early episodes, when we were talking about rejection and burnout, I was going through really hard times, and I was feeling so much pain. And so I was just trying to purge that pain onto the page. I realized that I have been doing the best I could. Like with outreach, for example, when I was trying to build my business and I was doing outreach and stuff, I was showing up, I was doing the reps, and things still weren't working out. And then with the stacking up of stresses of life, like physically, emotionally, mentally, relationships around, financially, all the life areas were just falling apart. I found that the stresses of life, when accumulated, like in the Terminator, when the bad Terminator, right, turns into mercury drops and then all the mercury starts coming back into one.
Yeah.
That's what it was like. The stresses of life were morphing into one big Terminator. And it was an opponent. It was a weight. It was a real thing. And it made it almost impossible to take forward action towards good. So I was trying, but that's what I discovered. I was like, I was doing the best I could. And so then I started to think about other people outside of myself.
Mm.
Take any hundreds of times this happened. I'd be on the street somewhere in public and, you look like I'll just say it, you look at like an obese person and I would look at them and judge them and be like, you don't have to be eating that ice cream in your hand right now. I know it's tasty, delicious, but you know, you could be doing better. You could instead be drinking water and maybe doing a forward fold.
Totally.
So I was projecting onto them that they were not doing the best they could. I didn't know what they were going through in life.
Right.
And I've found through struggle and pain and suffering and burnout and morning pages and action-based journaling that I've been doing the best I can, yet things were not going my way. I was gaining weight myself. Speaking of obesity, I took on 30 extra pounds over the last handful of years. And I don't feel good. So I have more compassion on myself. And so I'm better able now to project that compassion or empathy to other people. I'm now believing that other people are doing the best they can. I just think that so many people have so many stacked up stresses that it becomes almost impossible to do the right thing.
For sure.
I kind of said that messy, but do you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. So it's just theoretically, hypothetically rather, take somebody who has like a serious physical illness. They might want to do the best that they possibly can in some kind of like physical exercise or something, but they're literally incapable of doing it. There's a disconnect between like the mind and the body. It's possible that there is so much mental illness in this country and in this society where we might want to do, we know, it's even, I think it was Paul who said this in the New Testament. We want to do good, but we just don't do it. And that's actually sin, right? And the literal definition of sin is missing the mark. It had to do with like somebody shooting a bow and arrow. Is to him who knows to do good and does not do it, to him it is sin. I'm not saying that every like you're sinning, that just popped into my head, but all kinds of us want to do better and we just find ourselves not doing better. Why? Sometimes it's just too much pressure. Sometimes there's just too much societal pressure. There could be all kinds of comparisons or whatnot. There's also this incapability that we seem to have of just like being okay with where we are and what we have. So we live in like such a psychologically murky environment. And I think we all just need to have more compassion on ourselves. Like you've never been all that great with compassion, right? Let's just be honest. So it's exciting when you do show some of that, because you're able to experience what other people experience only once you've experienced it.
Now, it's not to say that it's the case 100% of the time, but by and large, some people, are just lazy and all that, and, whatever. But it's this things about projections and assumptions. So when I look at somebody who's obese and I project an assumption onto them that they're not doing the best they could when they could be, that's not generous. It's not generous because I'm assuming the worst,
right?
That they're ignorant and lazy. That's not a good character trait.
Yeah.
I don't want to be that guy. So through pain and journaling, I realized that if I'm going to project an assumption onto somebody else, I want to start by being generous. And a generous assumption about somebody else would be like, they're probably going through a lot of hard shit right now, and they're probably a little confused and tired. And so it's making it hard for them to do the right thing.
Right.
Start there. May not be true, but that's a better assumption.
Can you do that if somebody's tailgating you?
Fuck, man. Now, we do need to address my tailgating issues because one of my number one enemies in the world is tailgaters. And, Tracy, I was talking about something similar yesterday with Tracy in the car because every day, inevitably, people are tailgating. They're just right up on your ass. And I was like talking to, I joke about what can I do to get them, like get a bazooka and like fire them off the road. Can I get some dry rice and like throw it back there so it sprinkles on their windshield? Can I get a squirt gun, and squirt water at their windshield? Something to get them to back off,
Yeah.
But she was like she asked kind of a similar question like you did, like, what are we going to do about your tailgating rage issue? I don't know. Because the reasons why people are tailgating, I don't really care. I just don't want them to do it. I think it's rude.
Yeah.
It's dangerous. And we're not talking about tailgating, but I fucking hate tailgaters.
Yeah, it's almost never effective, that's for sure.
I also do find by just looking at people that, yes, primarily people are tailgating because they're impatient, et cetera, and they just want you to go faster or get the fuck out of the way. B, the other type of tailgater, they're just unconscious. They're not even realizing they're doing it.
Right.
I can just tell by looking at them. They don't have anger on their face. They just have obliviousness on their face.
Totally.
They just don't realize that they're not close. It's like people in the line at a store, they're tailgating in person. When I'm in the line at a store, they're all right up on my ass like this, just standing right behind you. It's like,
yeah,
hey, let's bring COVID back, keep your 6 feet, like yep. I'm all about that. Why would you stand that close to somebody?
I don't know, dude. Yeah, it is an unconsciousness kind of epidemic.
Okay. There's one more point about writing as a practice to help in recovery, and that is reviewing your life before it starts repeating itself. And I think a lot of people have probably heard of these, but they maybe don't have it as a practice. Things like weekly review, monthly review, quarterly review, annual review. So let me just break those down for you real quick. A weekly review helps with simple clarity and resetting the weeks as, the days turn over. Reset your week, get a little bit of clarity on what just happened. It gives you an opportunity to close open loops and regain control of the week ahead of you. If you want to go far down the productivity lane, this does include clearing your email inbox down to 0, processing your to-do list in your calendar. But that's a productivity situation kind of outside of the scope of this conversation. I'm more talking about like taking your daily journal entries, reviewing them, and essentially summarizing them. This is for helping to make monthly reviews even more clear. And a monthly review is basically giving you an opportunity at another higher altitude to notice patterns and to give you an opportunity for course correction.
Mm-hmm.
So you can zoom out a little bit further and see trends. What kept repeating? Where did your time and money and energy go? Then there's the quarterly review, which is where it's even at a higher altitude and it gives you an opportunity to assess your priorities and to realign those priorities. Are you on the right course?
Right.
And then at the highest altitude, there's annual reviews, which gives you a chance to really see the big picture of your story and the arc of it and the direction that you're going. It's the big zoom out. What mattered this year? What changed, if anything? And what are you looking forward to the year ahead? So those are kind of like the life reviews that are like the big time levers that can only work with a daily journaling practice. I think, because again, memory, we forget. So imagine you're trying to do a weekly review and then you're like, well, what happened this week? You're going to spend more time sitting there trying to think, unless you're really smart. I'm not like that. I forget. Like, I even struggle sometimes with the daily journal entry if I don't journal. Now, the way I journal actually is I journal throughout the day. So I kick off my morning journal. What time did I go to bed? How was my sleep? What time did I get up? What happened in the morning? Then I pause. Then I come back to it in the afternoon. what have I been working on, things like that, And then at the end of the day, then I fill in. I sometimes struggle to remember what happened in the day.
Right.
So if you're not keeping a daily journal, then weekly reviews are going to be tough and probably inaccurate. You might have been forgetting things. So I offer this to people as a way to help you not let the addictive bargaining brain negotiate and lie and create stories that weren't even true. You can be in control through self-awareness that is expressed visually and physically through a daily journal practice. And then we review that weekly, monthly. Any objections? I mean, like kind of you said earlier, like it sounds maybe a little bit like hyperproductivity and you're super organized and structured, and not everyone's like that. And that's true, but it could become enjoyable. I resisted it at first, but I found it to be beneficial. And it's a practice that I'm looking forward to continuing for many years to come. Because
I think that there's going to be a lot of people like you that really enjoy this, because a lot of people who are addicts, they don't have enough structure in their life. And what they need is going to be more structure, something to get their mind off of maybe their addictions, give them something to do, because like the mind can sometimes be like an Australian shepherd dog, right? Just hyperactive, always staring at you, always like ready to go. But if you give them a job, they are busy. They are the best possible performing animals, some people would say. And so people like you are going to want to do that like every single day, and then go back over that and like weekly reviews and quarterly reviews and all these kinds of things. And then somebody like me, I would never do that. I'm just not that type of person. Like I said earlier, not a structural bone in my body, but I do journal still on a regular basis. I don't find a need for any kind of like diary. If I forget what happened last week, I couldn't care less, unless it's like something important, but chances are if something important happened, I journaled about it. So it's going to be in there. And every journal entry of mine has the, day, month, and year, on each thing. So I can go back to it, pretty easily.
You make some good points there. I did want to mention that I didn't know this. When I first started journaling, I thought I'd be fancy and give like a headline title to each entry. But then I found that was time consuming to kind of think of what to title your entry. But it's the best practice just to put the date there. It's better for categorizing and referencing.
Yeah.
But also there's something another benefit to this, which is like, not only for yourself, but for other people, maybe call it legacy. So I double back up my journals in a cloud and on hard drives for future archival purposes in case I ever want to review them, or in case Tracy or Miles do, if I was to die, or not if, but when I die, or, or maybe you or someone, or maybe for writing a book in the future or whatever. That's another potential benefit of maintaining a journal practice, right? Because some people write for their kids. I think you were doing that for a while, right? Weren't you keeping like a specific kind of journal for your daughter?
Yes. Well, first of all, if I remember correctly, as it's stated in your legal will, if you die, when and if you die, and I'm still alive, then I think I'm responsible for like all of your possessions. So yeah, I'll get to share your legacy or not. I might just have to share your legacy with a recycling bin. Just kidding. I wouldn't do that. But yes, I kept a journal for specifically just for Sophie. That's kind of like a journal and a diary. So I started off before she was even born, when she was still inside of her mom. I started keeping a journal of like who I am and everything about me, kind of like a legacy type of thing that she can kind of go back to in the event that like I just die. After I got all that out, it's kind of like a lot of it's just a diary. So I just keep track of significant events, the day that she first started walking, the day that she stopped nursing, her first words, her first foods. And then as she got older, just significant events that are like happening in life, like the whole COVID thing. Like that was when, as soon as that started hitting the fan, I was writing about what was happening in the world at the time. So yeah.
That makes me think of something else I did not have in my notes, but I wanted to mention right now, and I think it's actually a fun and important thing to mention. If people want to do anything like this, maybe they don't even want to write. Maybe they just want to take their phone out and shoot some video. Here's another thing that I've been doing that's similar to journaling and legacy archiving is almost every day I'm shooting at least one clip on my phone that's like a home movie. So it could be a scene from us just doing something at home or when we're out and about. Usually it's about Miles, my boy, so when they grow up, they can see themselves as kids. So a daily practice is I do a home movie. Daniel's doing one now. So you do a home movie and take at least one photo. That way you can see the progression of your kid or yourself over time. So if you do a photo and a video journal entry every day, then you document that, save it in a cloud and a storage device. That way in the future, you've got hundreds of video footage or photos that you can look back on. You don't have to read anything now. And with the advancements in technology these days, they're doing like spatial audio and video. You put on the goggles, and then you can be like, oh, look, honey, look at that. Oh my God. Right? Because it's like, how many people can relate to this? Like, we don't really have many photos from when we were kids and we have no videos really. So how cool would it be to see some of that?
Somebody sent me a video the other day of Sophie when she was like maybe 4 years old. And I was like, gosh, man, I have almost no videos of when she was super young, or not many even now. Not even a tremendous amount of pictures. I just have always kind of naturally just been more physically present with her instead of on a phone doing that kind of thing. But I really appreciate it when I do see some of those. I'm like, shit, it's not going to hurt anybody if I just occasionally do something like that, because I would like to go back and reflect on that.
Yeah, and that is the tricky balance I find in the moment is like, are you going to document the moment or be present with it? So you got to strike a balance.
Totally.
So, but anyway, that's a little tool you can try out. So again, kind of summarizing the review situation, daily entries are catching your moments. Weekly reviews are catching the patterns. Monthly reviews will show you the trends. Quarterly reviews show you the season that you're in. Annual reviews can reveal what keeps repeating and what you'd like to change. So if you never review the tape, every season can feel random. I found that to be the case, and that was one of the reasons why I just wanted to like document everything as much as I could through writing, is just because I would forget things, I would make up things, and I just wouldn't be able to recall with accuracy.
Yeah.
This might not be as important to you because you seem to have better recall of memory than I do.
And I think that part of that is because I've been studies have shown that, your memory improves when you're physically writing about something. You're physically writing about something, an event or something, that you remember it even better. And I've been doing this for 37 years, which might be one of the reasons why. But I still do a review process, of going back and looking at what happened. Like I said earlier, going back and reviewing what I went over in therapy sessions to remind myself of how far I have come along. Also, just for when I was going through that brutal fucking relationship and I was being accused of some stuff, and I was able to go back and be like, I wrote about that. What actually happened? And go back here and be like, no, this is I was right or I was wrong. It could be, oftentimes. So that piece of history, occasionally it's not rigorous. I'm not judicious about it. Going back occasionally and just going over a review process. And I just like having the physical copies of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think journaling is an excellent thing that's actually super easy. Like you said, the morning dump could take 5 minutes or less. It could be, especially if you're just voice dictating it into some kind of AI app. All of this doesn't have to take very long at all. I think a lot of people are just, the way that I journal, find that really daunting. You're going to sit down and write for an entire hour.
No.
Or so. And that's my process. When I do typically sit down to journal, it's like an hour or so.
Yeah. No, it doesn't have to be a big thing. It could just be 5 minutes.
And I just wanted to share something real quick. When I handwrite when I'm hand journaling things, handwriting things, things tend to like come up even more for me than if I'm just talking about them, because yeah, I'm engaging my mind, I'm engaging my body and my hands. And there have been times when I just like start dumping and finding out like how I honestly felt about myself and some of these things. I was able to just like take the gloves off and get super honest about how I felt about myself to get to the bottom of things. And this was just so extraordinarily helpful when I was in those earlier stages of therapy. Saying things about myself to myself that I didn't even know were in there. It was just incredible. It's so cathartic, so healing. And going back over that in a review process, I'm going back over this now and I'm just like, Jesus, dude, I was messed up. I was so messed up. And I'm walking around so messed up and I didn't even know it. For real, I didn't know that.
So you kind of haven't been journaling too much recently. Do you think you're going to get back into it? Are you inspired?
It's definitely time for me to make another entry. I haven't done a lot in Sophie's journal, but it's time for me to do that. Yeah, that was inspired, by the way, by a couple of things. But one of them was asking mom some questions about like, when did this happen? And she's like, oh my God, Daniel, I have no idea. There were so many kids, there was so much going on. I have no idea. So I'm making sure to do that. But my last actual personal one, so then the last couple of years, last year and a half, I've moved 3 times. So unpacking journals and then packing them back away. So I haven't actually made an entry since January of 2025. So it is time for me to play a little catch up and get back in here and just spend probably an hour and a half filling in some of the blanks.
Yeah. All right, great. Well, I hope that you give journaling a try for yourself. If you already do, I hope that this deepens your practice. Thanks so much for tuning in. And Daniel, thank you for sharing more about your journaling practice as well.
Yeah, and if it's been a while since anybody's done some journaling, but they used to, it's really easy to shake off the dust, scrub off the rust, and pick it right back up. And just see how useful it actually might be for you. Give it a shot. And definitely let us know in the comments and everything how that's going for you. If you do have a journaling practice, if you want to share anything about that, we'd love to hear about that. Or if you have any more questions, any kind of topic, journaling, whatever, let us know.
That's right. We would love to hear your questions and answer them in future episodes as well. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.